All right, what's up, everybody? We are back with another one here. We got the 27-hole layout, Bud Pill, doing the throw pink practice round. So we have on the card here, it is myself, BJ was up first there, and then we have Paul Wright. Paul Wright is actually the course designer and the course steward. He is the one who takes care of 90% of all the mowing and all the maintenance and everything. Paul does incredible work. Like, Bud Pill would not even be close to what it is without him. And this is Prescott Mabbitt. He is a part of Team 360. He is another person who does an insane amount of work out on all the courses out here in Kitsap. West Sound is extremely fortunate to have both of these guys on our side. So Prescott gave that a good bid there. He puts with Wardens that I saw. Paul Wright, I believe he plays the Grandmaster division, the 50 and above, I believe. And he is also sponsored by Innova. And really solid golfer. This is BJ throwing his frisbee. He's actually putting that right side up, which is weird for him. Then we all had a bunch of tap-ins there. Hole 2, BJ putting a big old flex forehand on it. The flex forehand plays really well from the red pad. You know, it's just don't hyzer out too early, otherwise you'll miss the second Mando tree. The Mando trees were put in place there a long time ago. You used to be able to throw off to the right, but that is where the driving range for the actual golf used to be, was over there on the right. And they had to implement some OB and some Mandos because people used to throw over in that direction and then go out there while people were hitting golf balls at them. And the property owners didn't like that, obviously. So we put in some Mando trees and whatnot to keep everybody from going over there. Here we are, up shots for hole 2 there. Prescott almost threw that in. Everybody had some pretty decent drives. I'm not sure what BJ just threw there. I was a little pinched up against the tree here, and I couldn't tell if I wanted to go forehand over the pine trees, the little pine trees right there, or take a little bit of an abbreviated follow through. Didn't want to hit my hand on that tree right there. And make good with my upshot there. Put it pretty close. Here's Paul. Paul's an extremely fast player. He's he knows what he wants to do right as soon as he steps up. There's no thinking about it. He just steps up and does it. And then here's BJ's bid for a 3. First couple putts of the day usually never go in. Then Paul, Scott, and I all had some tap-ins, I believe. So this is hole 2B, one of the temp holes, the first temp hole. And there had been lots of talk about it being OB in the tall grass. And that was just everybody who had not been a part of the tournament director crew or part of the design team. But there was no talks by them about that being OB. So it's definitely not OB. So don't got to worry about all that. BJ threw that stiletto again. I'm throwing the Firebird again. Firebird's been working out for me. I do it almost every time on this hole. BJ's furthest out at, 15 feet?
There you go.
Is able to cash on the 2. Scott for his 2. This is pretty nice. I hadn't played with Prescott in a long time, and I usually don't play with Paul that often. I've played every now and then with him, but it was cool. Scott, myself, and BJ, we were getting ready to play and we're standing on hole 1's tee pad, and Paul just walked up and said, "You got room for one more?" And it's like, how do you say no to the guy that's designed the course, you know?
It's bound to happen.
So 2C here, there's the tight inside line that you can take there, and then there is that hyzer route around the outside. I personally have never taken it. I've always just thrown my rat up the gut. It seems to be pretty popular. I've seen, I think almost every time I play, somebody on my card throws up that hyzer line. But I haven't seen it work successfully. Don't tell anybody though. Yeah, no, I don't think out of all the people I've seen throw it, I don't think I've seen anybody successfully get to the basket throwing the hyzer line. But yeah, I mean, if that's what you're comfortable with, that's what you're comfortable with. So yeah, like I said, Paul plays super quick. So I tried to get up and I told him, this is both Scott and Paul's first time being recorded by myself, and I told him, don't let me trying to record you influence or slow down your play at all or whatever. So this is Scott's comebacker. He's almost on the next hole tee pad. So this is comebacker for a 3. That was a great putt. And Paul's throwing a little flip up hyzer shot here, which is really what this hole calls for. BJ tries to throw a big old flex forehand. He kind of threw it straight into the ground though. It was kind of weird. Scott's throwing a standstill, which is pretty good because this tee pad's pretty garbage in my opinion. But that's what you get with temp holes, I don't think I've ever two'd this hole. I don't think I've foured it either. So, I just kind of throw my hyzer shot with my rat up the gut there and try and miss the outside trees, and because you have to push it, the outside trees on the right, and I end up always hitting one of them, just able to scramble. This hole's only 250 feet, so not too much stuff. The rough isn't too rough unless you kick to the right, and I luckily have not done that. So Scott hit another tree there, a little unfortunate. This is Paul's look for a 2, and look at that, he caned it. I thought for sure he was just laying up. I'm not exactly sure if that was a full bid or not, but yeah, he went in. BJ, that was a 100% a full bid. That was a good putt for him for his 2 there. That's a bonus birdie in my opinion. And I don't know how his now that I think about it, I don't know how his forehand got all the way down there. It looked like he kind of burned it to the ground, maybe a cut roll or something. So this is the hardest hole to film, hardest hole to see where your shot goes. Paul and BJ's shots were pretty decent. Scott's hit the gap good. It just didn't turn over. He hyzered out a little bit. He's on the path to the next hole. Oh, wait. Paul's shot wasn't as good as I thought. Never mind. His up shot. Pretty clean, though. So this is the path to the next hole. Like a little access road or whatever here. And then, this area that you see right here is what you could call the fairway, I guess. BJ putting a bit up there on it. It's pretty uphill, so you can feel pretty safe running it. I usually do. Try and put a little bit of a run on it. Everybody put their runs on it, and we all tapped in our 3s. Now we move on to the next hole here. This is 2E, I believe. Do my letters here. Alphabet. Yeah, sure. 2E sounds good. This is my least favorite hole because I don't get it. I think, personally, there could be a lot of a better hole in this area, but yeah, we got to play it. It's just a big hyzer shot, really, but I just can't figure out how to get to the basket. I've tried every line. I've tried different discs. I've tried Firebirds. I've tried little flip-up forehands. Granted, I'm not that good at a flip-up forehand, but I definitely think the turnover forehand is the play if you have it. Scott just laying up there. I'm just laying up as well. BJ, we gave that a bid. Like I said, he putts with those mega soft harps, though, so he can safely run things. Scott left his comebacker a little high there. This is the par 4 coming back out of the woods back towards the normal holes. I like this hole. I think they should move the basket closer and make it a par 3. I think this is a pretty soft par 4, although, it is kind of easy to get a bogey on it. that is one option right there, unfortunately. And then I played a practice round today, and I hit that pile of sticks right there that I just threw over. So there's a little bit of trouble on it, and there's not really any trouble to get on once you get past pretty much this area right here. Pretty wide open. See, Scott just goes right through the middle of everything there.
Go over there for now.
I believe that's an Explorer from BJ there. I don't know much of Paul's bag. I know Paul throws a lot of lighter weight discs. I know he had a Tern and a Mamba and stuff like that. Some lighter weight, understable plastic. BJ throws all Trilogy, and then so does Prescott. And I'm the Discmania guy on the card. I got some Innova too. So yeah, this is pretty much where you want your drive to land, somewhere out in this area, out in this field. There's nothing wrong with turning it over and going into the tree line area that I was in. But, I mean, just getting it out in the field just makes your life so much easier. Makes getting the 3, like, almost guaranteed, as long as you can throw a 150, 200-foot upshot. BJ put a good bit on it there. This is Paul for a 3. Just a little soft on it. This is Scott for a 4. Circle's edge, just a little low. So we're back to the normal holes, hole 3. No danger really, just throw it straight and let it finish. Don't road to the right is OB. Paul putting trust in that disc. He threw a flex line on it. It's a pretty scary thing to do there. Scott, this is a Lucid, I think it's, might get corrected here. This is a Lucid X Warden, I believe. I know it was a Warden, and I think the plastic was Lucid X, so I'm throwing my trusty rat like normal. And I said I'm just going to videotape BJ getting down into a position and not being able to get up. I like to make fun of him because he's older than I am, still agile for his age. And then we all had some tap-ins there. We started at a little bit later, about 5:30 or 5:45, I believe, when everybody who has normal jobs getting off work and whatnot. So we had to meet up afterwards. Scott's a pretty tall guy, as you can tell, and some of the red tee pads out here at Bud Pell are pretty short, and they have little step-ups on them. So don't know if that was getting in Scott's head or not, but he looks a little uncomfortable in my opinion, and I think it's just because his run-up's a little bit longer than everybody else's. So I threw my blue flippy 2-line destroyer there. Everybody else just pitching up for their 3s. I don't remember what happened with mine. I don't think I made it, though. So here's BJ throwing his stiletto. Doink. Doink. Bye-bye. OB. That's one of my favorite things. BJ likes to throw overhand on a lot of these short holes where you got to really stick the landing in a specific spot. And they tend to bounce like that. He does it on hole 3 as well. It's all in good fun. Making fun of BJ. It's all in good fun. Paul's putting a run on it. Just a little short, I think it was. Not exactly sure what he threw. My razor claw, and as soon as I let go of it, I thought it was going to be deep OB. I got pretty lucky to stay in bounds, so BJ is throwing 3 from the drop zone here. Oh, and he wanted it. Then Scott, Paul, and myself all dropped in our birdies. Hole 6, pretty routine hyzer shot. Paul is visibly not happy with that. But I had to mention, if you hit any of those tree lines up there, if you hit any of those limbs and branches, then I want to say probably 8 times out of 10, if you hit any of that stuff, you're going to end up rolling back down into the water. And I was like, well, I guess if you're the course designer, then the trees don't disobey you, otherwise they know that they'll get cut down. I made a few jokes every time Paul hit a tree. I'm like, well, that one's coming down now. Yep, there's a good putt. Hole 7, I did not film for some reason, so here we are on hole 8 now. BJ's just smashing on the forehand.
Dig it.
Basket's right behind that, the big bush right there in the middle. You can see it in view right now. I'll throw a nice early release. Threw my rat this time, just changing it up, not throwing the razor claw on every time on this hole. Don't know what Scott's throwing here. I think this is an Explorer as well. So I threw directly into the middle of that bush, and this is where my drive ended up on the other side of it somehow. A little bit of an awkward bait on it. It's pretty, doesn't really feel good missing this hole, honestly. Scott put some mustard on that one. Paul with a good 2. BJ tapped in his 2. BJ looks so ashamed of that. I mean, this is a hard hole. Like, it's only 200 feet-ish, but this tunnel is, I want to say 10 feet wide maybe, if that. And it's not exactly right off the tee, so it's like probably 50, 60 feet off the tee, and it's about 10 feet wide, and it holds that tunnel for a while, too.
Yes, sir.
Scott, that's a good shot right there.
Great.
That Warden again. Brian made me get back here, and he was like, you got to receive this epicness. Ooh, and it almost was, too. He had the body language. He was dancing it, trying to get it to go in. Paul's a good 2 there. I walked up and just grabbed my disc and just threw it again. I didn't even bother taking my bag off, marking it, or recording it. Scott had a good 2 there. Getting that hole feels pretty good. Like, it feels like you should every time, but then you play it and you're like, man, this is actually a pretty decent 2. So BJ's ignoring the fairway that's in front of him and is throwing over all the bushes here. Just completely disrespecting the course designer. Oh, and he drops his phone. Disrespects the phone and the course designer. Doesn't even care about fairways or technology.
Go.
It was kind of cool. Like I said, I hadn't played with Scott in a while. It had probably been close to a year since the last time I played with him. It was at least pre-COVID. I know that. And it was cool to see him. His game developed a lot since the last time I played with him. Especially his putting. His putting got really good. A lot better since the last time I played with him. Smartly just pitching up. This is the scariest, slopiest green. Wow, this looks really far.
Nice, too.
That was just circle's edge, just inside the circle. Probably about 25 feet, 30 feet. Felt good to get that one. Couple of birdies on that hole. It's pretty rare. BJ and myself, I believe. So this is a 11A, the temp hole. This is in the par 4 position where it used to be before the switch. And I threw the shot that I wanted, and I pretty much just didn't want to hit anything. And I hit one of the trees up top, and you can't see, but you don't know what it does when it's up there. So I had thought that I hit something and put myself in a position I wasn't going to be happy with. Scott with a nice straight shot there. That's a perfect shot. I would pay to be in that spot every time. BJ throwing a big old tomahawk with that stiletto again. See, I ended up hitting something up here, and then it rolled back to a pretty tough position. I had a little gap here. I ended up here in the gap that I wanted. I just wanted to get a little flex on my rat there, but it never came out. So yeah, this is pretty ideal right here. You can just throw a nice little Anheuser shot there. Scott got over on it a little too much. Paul just hurrying up and throwing like normal. Left his a little high. There's a lot of branches to contend with. Good upshot there. Should be right under the pin. Scott for the 3, just a little short. That was a long bid, though. That was about 45 feet, probably 50 feet. BJ for a 3. Tried to dance it in. It's a great look of my short stand that I got. And that was just an ugly putt. Let's go ahead and drop in a par there. I think we all dropped in pars on that one. So this is another one where the tee pad's a little meh. In my opinion, it's pretty soft. As you can see, everyone's kicking up a bunch of dirt. But I always just tee off from the back of it. I start further back than everybody else. BJ threw a tomahawk and it decided just to go ahead and pick up and roll and put him right next to the basket. There's a whole bunch of trees to hit here. Both Scott and I squared them up. So I got this really awkward stance here. The straddle out forehand actually threw a pretty decent one. Left it a little short. So Scott's look for a 2. I think he got a double kick. Put a high bid up on it. Trying to float it down in. This is my look for a 3. Was able to connect and save my par there. This is hole 12, just a extreme dog leg left. Everybody knows you got to look down through this little hole right here to see if you see your disc. Yep, just saw Paul's go through the air, so that means that's a pretty good shot. You either want to see it through the air or skipping. You don't want to see it landing there. And if you don't see it cross through there, it's probably not a very good shot. Like you saw Scott's wasn't really skipping. It was just kind of, it just kind of landed there, which means that it's going to be a little bit short. Throw my MD5, and I went long of the guardian tree that's there, which isn't a problem. It's a pretty open look, but leaves you with a little bit of meat on the bone. Scott smartly laying up downhill. This one can get away from you pretty quick. BJ with a good 2. And I finally got smart, and I just let the camera roll whenever Paul's up. You guys can see how quick. This is the longest I saw him take. And I just so happened to do him and BJ's all in one take. Just left is a little low, though. Might look for a 2, just a little bit low as well. But it's sat, that's fine. A couple drop-in 3s there. BJ throwing a tomahawk up through the gut. Paul's throwing the routine hyzer shot, which is the play on this hole. You just want to throw something and have it finish to the left up through that gap there. You don't want it to finish too hard, though, because if it dumps out of the sky, then it's going to end up not making the gap, and it's going to end up in the trees that's right past what Scott just hit. And that's a pretty much, I mean, without going OB, that might be pretty close to worst case scenario, is hitting early right there. And then I completely missed my line and got pretty lucky to be in a pretty good position. And Scott was very close to OB. There's not a definitive OB line right there, and so it was a definite benefit to the player sort of thing there. No doubt about it that he was in bounds. BJ, this is pretty ideal, maybe a little bit further forward or further to the left. And then this is something that needs to be documented. This is a Paul Wright forehand. This does not happen very often. And he did it twice in one round. I just didn't, I don't remember where the other one was, but I forgot to record it. So yeah, this is where my drive somehow ended up, and then I threw my MD5. Pretty good upshot for me there. Scott's throwing his sack around. Throwing a little Annie backhand with his Warden. Left it a little high to contend with the branches there, but he snuck past him. BJ for a 3. Just outside the circle, a little short. This once again, this is the longest I saw Paul take. That was a great putt. That was a good 3 right to save right there.
Yeah, Scott.
That's just wrong. I don't know if you guys saw my last video that I uploaded of the 27 hole layout, but we had about 8 or 9 spit outs that were just disgusting. And speaking of disgusting, I don't want to watch this.
Kidding me.
Nice little Berdogi 3-putt.
5.
So moving on, please, quickly. Here's Paul just putting one out in the middle of the fairway. This is a soft par 4, very soft par 4. Pretty much just got to throw something out in the middle of the fairway. It's a good rip by BJ there. Got a little bit of his old man power into it. I know BJ threw a Vandal, and I couldn't tell you what these 2 discs are that both Paul and Scott threw.
Sword?
That's a good shot, though.
That's nice.
Something that's just going to hold nice and straight, and then hyzer at the end. That's what the shot that you want on this. I'm throwing my first run Swirly Philo Destroyer, trying to go smash cakes on it. And I didn't turn it over enough, but I'm not exactly in trouble either right there. BJ's got his upshot here. I believe this is that Explorer again. It's a perfect upshot. There ain't nothing wrong with that. Put him right under the pin. Paul with another good upshot. Just a tiny bit short, but it got a good little skip up. Scott with that Warden again. And just held on to it for a little bit. You got a great tree direction, though. So I'm down on a knee, straddling, sticking my foot in there. Got a nice little flex with the MD5 up the gut. That was a lot harder of a shot than it looked like right there. I was pretty stuck in that bush. Excuse me. Scott just a little low. He had good commitment at the beginning of the round. Don't know if it's fatigue or something, but the last few putts have been a little bit low there. 14B is just a little dinker. It's like 160 feet downhill. We're actually throwing off of hole 7 Blues tee pad backwards, which I think is kind of cool, utilizing the other tee pad. BJ, like I said, for those little short dinker shots, throwing that stiletto overhand shot, the tomahawk. Scott with that Warden. I choose to go standstill. If I put anything into it, then I usually blow past it, and I even stood still and still blew past it. But we actually all had some tap ins there, so we got a little star frame on that hole, like as we should. Yeah, hole 15, just right there. Just don't hyzer out. That's OB on the left in the woods there. That is literally the only trouble. I guess you don't really want to be deep of the basket either, because then you won't have a 2 look. But I mean, you might, but it's pretty obstructed if you get back past the basket.
Yeah, it will.
Scott ripping on something here. I feel kind of dumb for not asking him his bag, but whatevs. Throwing my Iron Samurai. Asking it to get, and it kind of got. So this is BJ's putting here, and I saw him lining it up, and I didn't really want to move and make any noise to distract him, so I just stood there. Paul looking on very intently. It's a good putt by BJ there. Paul's that blue frisbee up there parked. Scott with a 2. It was a good putt there. Both Paul and I tapped in our birdie putts there.
Smash
Well,
cakes.
it needs to come back a lot.
I believe that was that Mamba from Paul.
Now come on.
Something pretty stable from Scott there. Maybe felon-ish, like, maybe not as stable. This is that Vandal. I think the only thing that BJ really backhands is a Vandal. I've seen him backhand a Convict every now and then, and a Destiny and that Explorer, and that's about it. Makes it pretty easy for me. I heard BJ say my name. There's some smack talk going on or something. I'm putting a big old crush on my Firebird there. Checks up and rolls backwards. Gotta love it. So this is my look for a 2 here. I'm outside the circle. And I really, I shouldn't. That was just a poor effort there. I really shouldn't put myself in a situation where I have to putt on this hole. Paul hit every part of the basket and didn't go in. That's one of my favorites. Hitting the band, hitting chains, and hitting the cage and not letting it stick. BJ's so disappointed in himself there. I mean, complete air ball from 15. I'd be a little disappointed there too. Scott got a good 2 there. Hole 17 in the woods right there on the left. It's impossible to film unless I'm like literally standing on the tee pad, so I skipped that. So I'm asking mine to push because that tree that's right there, it's pretty grabby on the back side. It's a little bit more forgiving on the front side if you kind of go into it. Yeah, definitely the miss is to go in the middle of it, but I think that the back side of it, it's got more grabby branches than it does in the front. BJ threw a little forehand there. This is the play right here. That's how I play it. I just threw it incorrectly. And we actually all had some tap-ins on that one, so here I am, hole 18, throwing my Roadrunner up the hill. It started to get dark. It looks a lot brighter in the video right here, but when we were up there, we had to look. This is a Scott shot here. While we're up there, we actually had to use our cell phones for flashlights. Man, it's crazy how light it looks. I remember Scott turned his over a little bit there, and we had to use our flashlights to look for it. But I don't record anything else here. I actually ended up tapping it. I had a birdie putt up there, and then everybody else tapped in a par. So once again, I want to thank you guys. Like and subscribe. I'll be putting out one more video this week before Throw Pink, and then this weekend is a Throw Pink tournament. Thank you.